You are about to learn a most delicious, fantastic, and very potent recipe called the alchemy of love. This is a special chocolate fudge that you can make at home. Hello, my name is Malcolm Saunders, and I'm a raw chocolatier, raw chocolate maker, and I've been working with chocolate for a number of years. And I like to bring to you a different kind of a recipe, something you can easily make at home with a number of different ingredients. And I'm going to give you a concept, a template, something that you can then customize it exactly to your taste and to your desires. Now, if we think about chocolate, of course, already, this is the food already most associated with the heart and with love. And what we're going to do here in this recipe, we're just going to amp it up. We're going to take it up a notch. We're going to add in all kinds of different superfoods. Again, you'll get to pick. I'll walk you through all the steps. And at the steps that we begin adding in different herbs and superfoods, you'll begin to see the variety and the infinite potentials to achieve the results you want with the herbs that you enjoy. All right, to start off, you might be familiar with the cacao beans. Of course, this is the source of all chocolate. We're going to be working not with the cacao beans, but with the cacao paste, the cacao butter, and some cacao powder. Now, depending on your method, of which there are many in order to make your own chocolate, but yourself being a home chocolate maker, I'm going to assume that you don't have a stone grinder at home. I'm going to assume that maybe you don't have a juicer. What we're going to do today is we're going to use a blender. So you'll need a good blender as our base to begin to mix the ingredients together. And to start, you're going to take equal parts cacao butter and cacao paste, and you're going to melt those. You can do that if you have the fancy double boiler system. Awesome. Do it. Usually what I do is I'll get a glass bowl, metal bowl, something that can withstand heat, let it be tempered, and you're going to heat up some water. Could be on the stove, in a tea kettle, doesn't really matter. Then you take your bowl of cacao butter and paste and you put that into the warm water. And that's going to just gently melt those two ingredients and bring them into a consistency that we can then begin to work with. So depending on how dark or light you would like it will determine those ratios. I'm going to suggest a 1-to-1, so equal parts cacao butter, cacao paste. Put those in a double boiler, let it melt. Now you're ready to go. And while you're doing that, be sure to enjoy the chocolate aromatherapy, the moment that's going to come as those ingredients are melting. Next thing we're going to add is vanilla. Now, vanilla bean you can work with. You can take a knife, slice down one length, scrape out the seeds. Or you can work with vanilla powder, of which it's the whole bean, just dried and ground. Or I'm sure likely you might have a high quality vanilla extract in the house. So your choice, those is the base. Now normally I'd work with honey. Absolutely love honey. Pick a nice like wildflower honey, very medicinal properties, and you still can use that in a lot of your chocolate making, but this recipe here, I'm going to show you a little bit something different. It's going to work with a theme. Of course, honey would work as well, but we're going to work with dates. So this recipe here, this is a little secret for the guys. This is how you can get chocolate and flowers in one. Chocolate and roses along with a nice date. All right. Again, this is the alchemy of love, rose fudge. Okay, let's dive in. So we got our blender, we have our melted cacao butter and cacao paste. We're going to pour that into the blender as our base. Then we're going to add our vanilla. Just for the quickness, the ease of it here, I'm going to take the vanilla powder. We sprinkle some of that in as much as you like. Then, here's normally where I'd add that sweetener. Again, like I said, not going to use the honey. I'm going to use dates that have been soaking. So you take some nice medjool dates or any kind of date that you have. You want to obviously remove that pit, and then you're going to put them in a jar and just cover with water. Allow it to soak and rehydrate, and once you reach that stage, you're ready to go. Now you don't need all of this water, so you want to pour off some of the soaking water. If we add too much liquid, it's going to imbalance the recipe. So just enough that those dates have soaked up and rehydrated, that's the perfect amount. Drain the rest off. So get a bowl and pour off the remainder of that soak water. And you might be asking, how long should I soak those dates? Just a couple hours, enough that they begin to rehydrate. You'll see them swell a little bit. They're nice and soft and moist now. So we're going to actually pop those right in there. And depending on the volume, I mean, I've done about let's say about a cup of the cacao butter and paste melted, 4 or 5 of the medjool dates soaked. And just know that if you want, you can work with medjool dates. You can also choose apricots. You could also choose figs. You could choose any dried fruit that you like and let it rehydrate. Pour off that soak water, add into the blender, and now we'll add a little bit of cacao powder. Now that cacao powder is going to help absorb some of that liquid because, if you have any experience with chocolate making, you might be thinking, wait a minute, what is he doing adding a liquid ingredient to an oil base, right? Cacao, we know it to be hydrophobic. This means it does not like water. It begins to pull up into itself if it comes in contact with water. In the chocolate world, we call this seizing, and you'll get a very different texture. Your batch isn't ruined, but the texture in normal, regular chocolate making, you get that seizing, and you have a very different texture, something generally undesirable. But with this method here, we're going to blend it, and we're going to force it together. We're going to mix it in the blender, and then the cacao powder also helps absorb some of that moisture as well. I knew someone that when I was living in Tucson a number of years ago, he had a stand at the farmer's market, and this is not the exact, I've made some tweaks to it, but I learned from him this method of making chocolate, and he had fantastic chocolate, great success. All right, cacao butter, powder, paste, some dates, some vanilla. You could just blend it as is. Again, when we talk about love and the heart, every occasion, be it Valentine's, be it your anniversary, chocolate's always the thing to say I love you with, right? So you could just end there, but we're going to take a little bit further. I like to call this the alchemy of chocolate making, right? What else can we add to chocolate that has that synergy with it, either nutritionally or for a certain desired benefit? In this case, the love, the alchemy of love. And I mentioned, chocolate and flowers in one, right? It's chocolate, it's roses. We can combine those. We can do that in a number of different ways. You can get rose essential oil, put a couple of drops in there. And of course, we want to work with high quality ingredients. And if you know anything about essential oils, rose essential oil is one of the most expensive. So honey, I love you, but a little vial like that for really good stuff could be over $100. Hey, go for it if you got it. Otherwise, I'll show you some alternatives. One thing that I really like are rose petals that have been ground to a powder. Absolutely incredible smell. All the effects, all the benefits are there. So we can take that and we can put in a nice generous amount of the rose powder, as strong as you like it. This recipe I've in fact served to women and their knees have buckled. No word of a lie. It is very powerful. You're going to taste it. Your heart will open. You'll have just an amazing experience creating this chocolate and enjoying it. Okay, the next way we can add that rose in for those deeper elements is through rose hydrosol, rose water. Now this is common in a lot of Middle Eastern or East Indian cuisine. You can add it to drinks, to smoothies, to any number of things. And this rose water, you might even find this in a lot of women's bathrooms. It's a fantastic facial toner. It's a wonderful air room spray. It's like, incredible. So when they're doing the steam distillation for rose essential oil, basically this is all that's captured as a byproduct. So it's the water from all these rose petals. Absolutely amazing. You can use it as a spray, you can use it topically, but in this case, we're going to add it to chocolate. So we drop some of that in. Again, just going to add that deep, beautifying, heart-opening properties that it has. Now, normally, I might just leave it there, but I'm going to show you some other options. We do have the roses in now. Maybe we could add a little bit of ginger, increase the circulation. That might be good for certain members of one's body. Increasing circulation to those areas definitely fits in with our theme. How about pine pollen? We can add something like pine pollen for the guys, for the testosterone. We can add in, the Ayurvedic herb ashwagandha. There's a saying, the ashwagandha is known to give you the strength and stamina of a stallion. How would you like that in your chocolate? I'll leave it to you. I know this one here, this is actually one of David Wolf's favorites. Whenever he comes to Calgary and he visits a light cellar, he always picks up a bottle of this, and a large one too at that. It is the sexual tonic and aphrodisiac tincture. We can take tincture and we can drop that in just to increase that herbal potency. So you can put tinctures into your chocolate if you didn't know that. Fantastic thing. We know chocolate to be the greatest delivery system. So whatever you're into, anything goes. Obviously, you got to work with the alchemy, work with the flavors, right? And go for your enhanced desired effect. I'm pretty happy with the way it is. We're going to blend it up, and then I'll show you the texture that comes out, and we'll have a taste. Okay, this is a helpful tool if you have a Vitamix and you're able to use that plunger just to kind of get things mixed around into there. All right, there we go. So what you're going to notice, just as soon as this has blended, it's almost a fudge-like texture itself right away. So we can just eat this right off the spoon. And one of the things that we're talking about that's in chocolate that makes it known for its heart-opening benefits, its love. And in fact, I think it's the reason why there's that statistic. Is it 8 or 9 out of 10 women that prefer chocolate to sex? Maybe it's 10. Well, there's a certain chemical, they call it the love chemical, the phenethylamines. This is something that your body naturally floods in when you fall in love, that romance. And a food known as chocolate is very high in that chemical. We can get it just naturally from eating it. And for those of you that know Dr. Terry Willard, who's also got some courses on body-mind, I went to a chocolate conference a couple years ago with him where he was one of the main speakers, and the buzzword of that day was phenethylamine, the PEA, the love molecule. And there was all these scientists presenting about chocolate. And Terry, if you don't know him, fantastic guy. I like to give you an idea, description of him. You imagine, a guy out of the Lord of the Rings, in that sense. He's absolutely, herbal hero, man of the earth, man of the forest, yet he loves chocolate and knows a lot about it. So he was presenting on these PEA, these phenethylamines, and it turns out that a lot of that PEA gets broken down by your stomach. And therefore, you're not going to get as much just consuming it, and passing it through your digestive system. However, there's a little trick that we have receptors in the top of the roof of our mouth where this PEA can get absorbed and go straight into our brain. And he's like, wow, I wonder if that's where that whole ritual comes from of letting chocolate melt in your mouth. And it gives you that much more sensual experience. And then he made the joke, wow, that puts a whole new spin on oral sex now, doesn't it? So as you're finished with this chocolate, this alchemy of love, full of rose, full of the sexual tonic and aphrodisiac, whatever you've put in there, have a moment. Right out the blender, just enjoy it, let it melt in your mouth, have that chocolate alchemy. You're going to enjoy this one. Amazing. Take a moment. And then when you're ready to take it out of the blender. Maybe you're just happy to eat it right out the blender. You're going to scoop that out. And maybe you have molds. There's some fancy chocolatier molds that you can get, hard polycarbonate. I'm sure you've seen the ones that are like different shapes, ice cube trays, hearts, circles, this and that. Oftentimes, a lot of time what I'll use is just like a Pyrex, a glass. So we can spread that out onto the tray. Now it's still soft, still a little bit warm from the blending, and we spread that out, and then we're going to pop that into the freezer. And that's going to begin to set. And this chocolate, it will set enough that you'll still be able to pick it up, but it's got that soft texture. It's a melt in your mouth, instant, straight up to the roof of your mouth, into your brain. A good, nice PEA hit, plus the heart-opening properties of the rose. Let's spread that out there, and I'll lick the rest later. Put that into the fridge, and there you are. You're going to have the alchemy of love. The chocolate rose fudge. I hope you enjoy. You can visit me at thelightseller.ca. My name is Malcolm Saunders, and thanks for joining me.